All right, we are live. Good evening, Alex, the love engineer. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
So good to see you, my friend. It's been such a long time since we've seen you in person. So,
Yes.
Patty, you know.
It's good to be seen. Exactly. It is good to be seen.
So, we're going to go ahead and get this shared on our social media. If we can get the link, we'll share it so that we can go to the sister circle. Let me turn this volume off. Because I don't want no beeping while we're talking, girl, because this is going to be a really good conversation. Like,
I'm
are you
looking
really ready for love?
really,
Really ready.
really,
Really,
really.
really ready for love. Okay, so we have the link. Go ahead and copy that and put it on the Sister Circle page. And then we are going to get to conversating because we got a lot to talk about, my friend.
Honey, I am so excited to be here.
Yes, back to the roots, right?
That's a way to think about it, and when until you said that it's funny how you quickly just you lose track of, if you will, things or how they, not even so much how they start, but again, you just get so far removed. But I'm so glad to be here for that reason because you're right. It is where it all started,
Yes.
and we'll
So,
get into that for sure.
so it is. We are now live and on the page. So we're ready to go ahead and get started. So I am Christy Ketchum, the founder of the Sacramento Sisters Circle. We celebrated our 10th anniversary. Alex was going to join us, but we had some mishaps. It wasn't in the cards, but definitely you have been a part of the Sacramento Sisters Circle since the very, very beginning. And you have become a very good friend of mine. We've traveled and we've gone through some things. We have long conversations after long hiatuses, but I really want to get into how you became the love engineer. I really want to talk about deserting discussions because a lot of members have participated and attended and been a part of this deserted discussions starting in your living room. I was late to the party because I think you started. When did you start having these discussions in your living room?
2009.
Yeah, so I moved back in 2010, the end of 2010, and then I was like, they was like, you got to meet Alex, and she has these gatherings at her house, and men, black men and women coming together talking about relationships and love, and like everybody's like really into it, and you can get different perspectives. And I was just like, well, we gotta definitely go to this because I gotta see this. It's been really awesome to be able to support you and to see the growth and your movement. So I'd love for you to just talk about like how this all got started for you, why you call yourself the love engineer, and like why is this an important discussion for us to even have?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's funny because again, like I say, you take me back. So I had just moved to California in 2009 ish, or nevertheless, um, was honestly looking for a way to connect and get into the community, all this other stuff. That was initially my thought, but that's then I stumbled upon this is Blockbuster days. So imagine that, right? One Friday night, bored out of my mind, because I didn't have a lot of connections and friends yet. I was still very new, but I stumbled across what I thought was a Tyler Perry movie, that I was just going to, binge watch over the weekend, if you will. Again, this is binge watching before it was a thing, right? So I was going to watch. I got The Diary of a Tired Black Man and popped it in thinking, like I said, that it was a Medea movie that I had missed, only to realize that not only was it not a Tyler Perry movie, it was a movie, or it was a short film by a California brother, Tim Alexander, recounting his view of relationships. And it was the first time I had ever seen a man's view about dating and how women showed up. And what really caught my eye is that as he was portraying women in this series, I could see myself in one of the women portrayed. And I was like, oh, wait, is this how this looks to men on a date? And I wanted to answer that question. And so I invited men and women to the house to watch that same DVD to see if the men in our world saw it the same way. And so what I thought would be, a couple hours, and people like, how to become dessert and discussion. It's like, because I wasn't going to cook, hence dessert. I was like, coming to my house after you've eaten somewhere else. Come here for dessert. And then I wanted people to be clear about why they were coming. I'm very big on making sure, so discussion. So literally dessert and discussion was born because I wanted people to know I was not cooking and we were going to talk. And what I thought would be a couple hours turned into 1 a.m. of men and women just going back and forth, pausing the video and all this other stuff, and some really eye-opening and enlightening discussions about love, sex, and relationships from a perspective that we often don't get, men or women, which is the other person's perspective about how they see something that's happening, particularly when it comes to dating. You're on mute.
Yeah, and those conversations started at 1, but no, we started getting later than that, right? And then they became a big, huge event. People started inviting their friends. One of the things that I really liked about the certain discussions was that there were always pretty much equal men and women. It wasn't just women, it was both men and women. Most of them we were pretty much in touch with each, like knew each other and friendships with each other, but I thought it was a way for us to really see each other in different lights and talk about each other's experiences. And we were also very much surprised by the way sometimes we answered and our experiences, because where do we have these conversations where we can talk about love and relationships, especially Black love and relationships, getting the perspective of men. Usually when we get together as women, we're talking about the men, and most of the time they're not doing something right. So it was just really refreshing to be able to be in a room with Black men and women having healthy conversations about love, relationships, our perspectives, why we thought certain ways. And it just was very, very refreshing. So, and I really love the fact that this whole dessert and discussion, the love engineer, I declare war games, like the conferences and all the things that you're going to share with us later about what you do, like how it all just started right here in Sacramento. Like, who would have thought? Sacramento, little old Sacramento.
Who would have thought? Because I was gonna have one dessert discussion to be done, and then people were like, when is the next one? I'm like, there is no next one. But if you got, I got questions, and I always did, because I had always been on a quest to uncover what did it take to love and be loved. Because I knew that's what was important to me, and I wasn't gonna, and I had vowed to remain unmarried until I could answer that question for myself, right? Because I was in an amazing, high school sweetheart relationship, in college, the whole nine, and we were, having those conversations, like, let's get married, because it was like the natural progression, until I realized that I didn't feel the way I thought I should feel to be talking about marrying somebody. And so I ended that relationship, and it was really painful, particularly for him in that moment. Because he's like, wait, I thought we were on paper, we were perfect, except my heart wasn't. I didn't feel the way I knew I didn't feel. And I was like, I know getting married is not going to make me feel the love that I know I desire. And I needed to uncover what it took to do that. And I vowed I would not do that to somebody else's son, frankly, ever again, until I knew. And so I chose to remain. I was like, I'll be unmarried until I can figure that out. And so that's why I was even interested to begin with in this journey. And then when I met other men and women, I realized that, again, it wasn't just me who did not know. Married people would show up and they were interested in these same conversations. I was like, oh, wait, this isn't an Alex question. We have questions about relationships and need a space to answer them.
Yeah, I think for me, these were really good conversations, because when I moved back here in Sacramento in 2010, I was recently divorced. And I've been in Atlanta for 18 years. I was recently divorced. I had been away from my family, and I just felt like I needed to come home. And my mom had been telling me, bring you home. And I was like, I'm about to come home. And she was like, what? She just couldn't believe it. She was like, I've been trying to get you home for years, and you finally came home. And it was just because I felt like I needed a sense of family. I needed to be around the people that I knew loved and cared about me. And I just needed to, like, heal, right? Just heal. and feel comfortable and feel the love and the support where I knew I could get it. And so when I came back, that is exactly what happened. Um, I think for me, why this conversation is so important is because I think the way we've been socialized, of course, I grew up in church. I went to St. Paul Baptist Church. Uh, my uncle went there, took me, routinely every Sunday. I was at church. I was in the choir. I babysat in the nursery. Like I did all the things, right? With church, you're told that you should go to college, you should get educated, you should get a good job, then you should get married, and you have kids, get buy a house, and live happily ever after. And for me, I did all those things. And that, like, I didn't do all the things, right? But I did most of the things. And I felt like I did what I was supposed to do. I was a quote unquote good girl, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that didn't work out. I was pissed. Like, I did what y'all told me to do. And it didn't turn out the way I thought it was supposed to turn out. And now we got a problem. Like, we got a major problem.
Yeah.
Because didn't nobody tell me about all this other stuff, right? And all these things I can consider. And so in that moment, I decided that, like, look, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. I'm gonna live my life unapologetically. I'm gonna travel. I'm gonna be open to love, but it isn't about marriage. It isn't about having kids. It's about like, what can this bring in my life? How can it be a mutual beneficial? How can I be with someone that loves and cares about me, and like I can enjoy life, not because I'm checking things off the boxes. I was like, I did that. That didn't work. So here we are, mid-30s, and now it's time. We about to kick it. Like we about to do it all. Like do all the things. Because I just think as young women, we're not socialized and we're not taught to do that, right? We're taught to, be good girls and follow this little very limited and rigid plan. And then you live happy after, and that doesn't actually happen. And that marriage is the bad. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about like how we need to be more expansive in our visions for ourselves, and how marriage is not like a badge of honor, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the happiness, like all of it doesn't happen in osmosis. It takes work. You have to love yourself. You have to decide if that's something that you really want and commit to it. Find somebody else that's equally committed to it. Not that it's going to be easy, but that you there's a partnership in this. So like, let's talk about like all the things we've learned, all the things we've had to unlearn. And then why is it important for us to go through this process before we can even be open to love?
Yeah, and there's a lot to that, and that's exactly it, right? So again, as the love engineer, who again, for those of you who want, I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, so that is my actual background, and a part of me knew just the way that we taught it. So even as you just talked about it, it didn't make sense. Right. And as an engineer, it needs to all add up, or it does not add up. Right. And again, the things don't add up in the engineering world. It's like, no, there are really serious repercussions here, like buildings fall, bridges collapse, the whole thing. So I'm like, I don't think it's the add up of, to your point, go to school, get a job, get married equals happily ever after. That equation doesn't add up. But yet many people keep running it. Hey, Jeanette, people keep running that and not realizing that, hey, this formula is not right. And people keep running it. And that's the fascinating part. But I knew, I was like, oh no, this does not add up. And so a part of this idea, and again, the biggest aha for me as as I do this work, is realizing that if you can't get to happily unmarried, you can't get to happily married, because though unmarried and married are different things, happily is the same state of mind. And so the illusion or the breakdown in the whole approach is this belief that this thing gets me to happy, and not realizing that the truth is that I actually have to discover, uncover, and commit to happiness first. And then I can attract or get into situations that support that. And like I said, at the time, I didn't know that's what it was, where it was like, oh, I'm not happy with this. And I can't think that marriage is going to get me there. And so that's the thing. Looking back, I'm like, ooh, that was pretty mature for you at that time. Because he was a young minister. I was a Sunday school teacher, and all of the forces that be would be like, y'all should get married. And I'm like,
Yeah, like it's a perfect combination, right?
it's the formula. The formula worked, and people was like, look, they went to prom together, they got married, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, and they don't look happy either. So I couldn't. For me, it was like you can't sell me on something that you don't look like you're enjoying. And that's how I felt what married people were. I was like, if you guys are selling marriage, I just want you to know I'm not buying it, because you look unhappy too. But I'm not going to say anything. You do your thing. But I'm like, if we just need a party, then I can throw parties. And then I would subsequently throw parties.
That's an expensive party, honey.
Price. So nevertheless, so to your point, so when I do a whole series called How the Church Lied About Love, and again, wasn't even so much lying. Again, they ran that formula because somebody taught them that formula. And they don't know any differently. And so that's how come you get these ideas that marriage is hard. Marriage is not hard. Pretending like you're happy with a partnership that you're not supposed to be in, that is hard. Faking it till you make it, that is hard. That is what's hard. Marriage is not. Marriage is fine. It's like
not being satisfied, but can't say that you're not being
satisfied, and you can't say that. Having to show up at church every Sunday with a smile on your face when you actually don't feel loved and cared for. Now that is hard, but that is not marriage. That's just what happens if you run that formula and commit to that result, and you don't realize that, where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to get to happily ever after. I got to come into this happily to start with, and then I can build from there. But that's not the way they teach the formula. So anyway, so that's the big part, is unlearning that lie, because that's not true. And that's the piece where dessert and discussion, and the discussions we all would have, and the revelations where you're like, wait a minute. So you think this, you believe that. And then the times had changed. That's the other thing. So nobody go back, tell your mom and your grandma or your pastors that they lied to you. They did not. They were just doing what worked for them. They've never had to do this 21st century game that we're having to develop. It's a different world. So.
Yeah, and let's just be honest too. I have an aunt and uncle. They've been married for 65 plus years. And I've asked my aunt, and her relationship, I have to be honest, like I learned a lot through my aunts, my mother, my grandmother, their relationships. I think it really helped mold me into the woman that I was. So even when I got married and I was unhappy, I was like, I did not sign up for this. This is not what I signed up for, right? Now I know we're gonna have some challenges, some things are gonna come up, life is gonna happen. But me being unhappy and you not knowing if you want to be married, I didn't sign up for that. We could have dealt with that before everything, right? But like this level of still. And it's not just women that feel that pressure. It's also men. Yeah, they feel that pressure too. Like you're supposed to be married, supposed to have a wife. But okay, if you're not happy and if you're not even expressing how you're really truly feeling, and you're not actually being who you need to be, because this is what I also say, is like you're with someone else that's constantly changing at the same time you're changing, individually and together. Do you know how much is going on all in one time? And don't let life come in and all these other things kind of come in.
It will. There's no such concept as let it come in. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. But how it comes, and that's the thing that you don't have any control over, right?
Yeah.
Because you even talked about subsequently the person that you were possibly going to marry and some of the things that happened, just life, right? And so I just, when I talked to my aunt that she said she's been married for 65 plus years, what she says is, don't ask me how what did she say? I think she said, yes, how did you guys stay married? She said, don't ask me how, ask me why, and would I do it again? And I was like, what is it? I was just like a bright. She was like, don't ask me how I stayed married, but ask me why and would I do it again? I was just like, whoa, this is, and I love that honesty, because we have this big picture. It's like people don't stay married anymore. And, that my grandparents are married for 65 years. But when you hear their stories, I don't necessarily know if they were always happy. I know that there's some troubling times, and even things that I know that I saw and I learned that I definitely didn't want to bring into my relationship. So let's talk about like how do we build these healthier relationships in ways that we really can be truly happy? We can be ourselves. They're not embedded with all these stereotypes and these gender roles. Like, what are some of the things that you can talk about in regards to that?
I'm looking at the chat and I see Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette, kind of comments here. So there's two things to that point, and she hit on, like, however we can be happy and be in love and all the feelings without being married, right? And the answer is right, but again, I want to make sure we're not sending the message. Marriage is fine. Getting married is still an amazing thing. It's one of those deals where, again, as an engineer, it's like, no, because this bridge keeps collapsing does not mean we should not build bridges. We just should build better. We should learn to build better bridges. And so marriage is not a bad thing. And so, yep, you can be all those things without marriage, but marriage is not bad. It's the idea. And even just last night, I did an event, and we, came to this day. It's like, what we misunderstood is this idea of what love has to be. Right. Again, when I think about love, and I say it all the time, love is a force, right? The most powerful force on earth, but a force nonetheless, right? No different than gravity. Gravity is a force. And I say it all the time, it's like, you don't have to understand gravity to fall, but you do have to understand gravity to fly. Same thing in our relationships, where it's like, you don't have to understand relationship skills. You don't have to understand communication. You don't have to understand any of that to fall in love. You do need to understand that to be able to grow this relationship, take it to new levels, and handle it. Because again, love is not the only thing, and that's what happens. We level it to, it's like it's either love or nothing. It's like no. Just like gravity, gravity is one of the four forces of flight, not the only force of flight. Gravity alone will not help you fly. You got other things that got to balance with gravity. Same thing with love. It's like love alone will not take this relationship to new heights. It cannot. The force is not there for that. You got to balance. You got to have love and what I call the 4 gears of great relationships. Love is the lubricant. It is not the gear.
I like that. Love is the lubricant.
Love is the lubricant. It's not the gear. It's like, the 4 gears. It's like, no, it's the thing that allows everything else to run smoothly. It is not the thing that is turning. And without that, so we put all this weight on, if you love me, and we talked about last night, people like, I want unconditional love, says we all. Until you get down to the reality where it's like, no, love may be unconditional. Relationships are not, though. I can love you and leave you.
What? I think that's the best kind. That truly means you love them.
Right. And it's like, or, and I can love you and understand that the relationship we're building, the marriage we're building, that's something different. Again, love lubricates this. It helps us create this thing, but it is not the thing.
That keeps it together.
It can't be the thing. And so you got to decide how I'm going to build this relationship and what's required there. Because it was like unconditional love. And it's like, you don't know unconditional love. Or you might know unconditional love, but you don't know unconditional relationships. Every relationship you're in has conditions attached to it. Every one of them.
Absolutely.
And we just got to acknowledge that. Hey, Tamisa. Hey, Alex, so glad you're here. Yay. Love it. I'm so glad to be here again. Tamisa was on these ground floor that when we was in SAC. So I think, Christy, that's the thing, right? So it's disconnecting. Like I said, as a love engineer, I bring logic to love, right? Because I think that's what has been missing. It has been the most illogical thing to me, where I'm like, this does not actually add up. It makes no sense. However, if you get enough people to keep doing it, and you think I must figure out how to do it, it's like, no, 2 + 2 does not equal 6. I don't care what they keep saying. That is not right. It's not right.
Right. I love that. Okay. So let's just do an overview, because I know people are joining us. So we have talked about the how the certain discussion started right here in Sacramento, and it was conversations between Black men and women coming together, being honest and transparent about their feelings and experiences. We're talking about how this perception of like what we're supposed to do, especially as Black women, how we're socialized to, go to school, get educated, get degrees, get married, have a house, get and have children, and then live this happily ever after. And how I'll say for myself that just wasn't the case. And then also that being in love means being in love with yourself. It means um, first and foremost, loving yourself, right? And being very clear about who you are, what you want, and what you need, and not expecting somebody to provide that for you. Can nobody give that to you? You got to give that to yourself first and foremost. And then hopefully you can come with someone else's that has that same level of understanding, healing, and maturity, and y'all can come together and make that work. And then the other part that we just kind of went over is just like love is not the end all be all. Like you have to have more than love, and love is unconditional, but relationships are very conditional, and we know that for a fact, right? And so that's where we are now. Okay, so I really want us to get into the nitty gritty, and I really want us to play and talk about some of the tools that you have created to help people have these conversations in their wherever they decide to have their desserts and discussions, and how that like how that all came to be.
Yeah, no, the war. It's funny because the War on Love games literally became just because of that. So you were like, say, for those that got a chance to experience the certain discussions, you know how special it is, right? The ability, and my friends who attend, like the way you ask questions or the things you think about, like I've never thought about that, and so then it just provokes a discussion. It provokes these aha moments. And literally one day, my girlfriend, who would miss all the certain discussion because she has children, her and her husband. She's like, you need to figure out, and this is how she called me. She called me on the phone and they was like, you need to figure out how people can take you home. That's what she said. And then hung up. She's like, figure this out. And I was like, she was like, because everybody can't make a dessert discussion, but everybody should get to take you home. And so literally I walked into my room, opened my door, and it happened to be a deck of cards there. Literally that's what started it. And then on the cards, there was some fun facts. I was like, oh, I could do this. I could put provocative questions that I ask onto cards, make it fun, make it exciting. So it's kind of like I'm in the living room asking the questions, but I'm not in the living room asking the question. Well, I kind of am. So you get to have me. So when you play the War on Love games, and I'll grab them here. But when you play the War on Love game, it really is, and I put it on like that on cards. One, because my people like me, I grew up on spades, and so so like I like playing simple and easy, and to also reinforce this idea that love is not complicated. Relationships are not hard. And people like, well, communication is so different. It's like, it's not a lack of communication. It's usually a lack of quality questions. So therefore, we don't get to the parts of the relationship we're looking to uncover because we don't even know what questions to ask to get us.
And we're not asking the right questions.
Yeah, we're not asking the right question. Unless you get the War on Love game, what it allows you to do is it allows you to ask a question. But just like a dessert discussion, right, is that the question that started the discussion is usually not the question that ends. I mean, like this whole thing, and I say it all the time, if you play your cards right, you're not playing the War on Love game. It allowed you to ask some other questions that you really need to discuss in that relationship. But it becomes the catalyst for that. And that's the magic of the War on Love game. Or you can just ask all the questions in the game, whatever. It's a great girls' night, date night, game night, all of those things. Because again, we just don't have a space or place to interrogate ourselves.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think even like when I think about conversations I've had with my mom and my family, my mom is very much more conservative than me. I talk about it all. My grandmother was kind of like, we had a lot of conversations. My mom was like, oh, what are y'all talking about? Like, and I just think that that's the thing as women, right? We don't have a lot of conversations about our sexuality and like all of those different things. And I always talk about the fact that like young men, they have wet dreams. Everybody knows this. This is something that's acceptable behavior. But as far as girls, it's like, don't touch yourself, don't get pregnant, don't have sex. Wait till you're married. There's all these conditions that are put on us on how we choose to express ourselves sexually, and not even having those conversations. I was part of that, right? I didn't have a lot of those conversations. I would be figuring out things later. I found out my friends was having sex in the bathroom and all kind of stuff. And I was like, because I wasn't doing that, then I wasn't a part of those conversations. And then it also was kind of played like it was wrong, right? Like, like you're doing something wrong, it has to be done in secret. And so once I got my understanding at like 30 something, right? I was like, we need to give these little girls some vibrators. Like, let them play with themselves. Instead of going out here playing with these boys and getting sexually transmitted diseases, having children, like having all these bad experiences. Like, we have to encourage ourselves to be more sexually free. That doesn't mean that you have to be promiscuous, but that's your decision as well. But we like need to be able to have these conversations and be okay with our bodies and what feels good to us, and like having these discussions. I think is so important, and I don't know why we feel like girls we don't allot that same time and intention for girls to explore themselves and get to know themselves in that way, even before they interact with the opposite sex or whoever they decide to engage with.
And that's really what it comes down to, is realizing, again, we've learned how to do everything, except how to love and be loved and be in relationships. It was always taught. I mean, again, our parents didn't teach it to us, because the reality is nobody taught it to them. So we literally got entire generations of people passing on these dysfunctional relationship behaviors and wondering why our relationships are coming. Like I said, it's kind of like, my whole Evali relationship theory is like, relationships have evolved like the phone. Right? Granny and them had like rotary phones, legit. Most of us have used a rotary phone. There may be some people listening who don't know what a rotary phone is, and that's okay. But think about that. Remember the rotary phone?
Yes, ma'am.
That is how
you had to start over if you missed the digit. Yes.
That's how their relationships were, right? It was very practical. And the rotary phone was for two reasons. You were gonna make a call or take a call. Like, that's it. There was nothing else about it. I mean, same thing. They got married, and it was to make a baby and take care of a baby.
All this economically and like all.
It was very practical. It was not. It was not. Fast forward, our parents, their relationships probably like our cordless phones. Got a little more range. You can move around. You can have a little more privacy. But again, men still did men stuff. Women did women stuff. And same thing. The primary reason for that phone, cordless and fancy, was to make a call, take a call, and you might be able to see who was calling if you got real fancy, right? Call ID became a thing, but still the primary reasons for them, because today, this thing we call a phone, I can do 100 things on my phone, and not one of them be make a call or take a call. You got to learn how to use this thing called a phone. And it is nothing similar to the phones you grew up with. So therefore, they can't help you with it either, right? Nobody calls their grandma like, Granny, can you tell me how this Android works? Nobody. Nobody. But we still are like, can you tell me how to do, how men work? And it's like, no, she can tell you how your granddaddy worked. But she don't know these brothers in the 21st century. She don't know them.
These brothers don't know their brothers. They don't know themselves.
Same with women, though. Same thing. Where it was like, we not grandmamas, right? And we are not those women. It was like, no, your mama can tell you about her and her people, but she can't tell you about these. Your daddy ain't never had to deal with the fact that she was making six figures. He don't know what that feels like as a man. We are a different group that are in these relationships. And so while, the dryer might have made your mama happy, he bought you that same dryer. It's like, Daddy, she like mad that I bought her a KitchenAid appliance, right? Your mama, however,
no, they'd be like, what are you insinuating here, buying me this KitchenAid?
It's just that it's different, not because it's right or wrong. It's just realizing that the times are different, and that's how come, whether it's the War on Love game and being able to ask the question so I could get some understanding about who you are and what you need and desire in this relationship is important, because copying mama and dad's like, this ain't your daddy dating game. Your mama did marry him because she bought her a vacuum cleaner for sure. Because she used to sweep. I have a housekeeper. What are you talking to me about? Didn't even cross my mind.
Yes,
Right. And
ma'am.
so it's realizing that where it's like, it's not that it's right or wrong. They weren't better. It's not that. It's just they had different dynamics, but more what they did do that they did what worked for them. And they created this is going to work for us. And it did. We now are having to learn and having to trust about what's going to work for us. Realizing again, my smartphone, I can put it in my pocket and go anywhere I want to go with this phone. I ain't got to be standing in the kitchen waiting on it to ring.
Right.
It's different. And it's okay, but you do have to learn how to use it effectively.
And let's have this conversations like where you didn't feel like you could have these conversations before. Like have the conversation.
Now you have to. You have no other way to do it because again, now even if you got the same phone, right? It's the most fast. Like, hey, did you know this is a thing? I was like, how was I supposed to know you shake the phone to get to undo? How was I supposed to know that? You don't unless somebody.
And the thing about it is just taking it away from the telephone analogy because I really get that. But the other thing is like you have to get to know who each person is that you're dating. Like it changes, right? So it's like 100 smartphones that you got to figure out like all of them all at the same time. It's like you are constantly having to learn. And it also requires people to be open and to be honest and to be transparent and then stop with the judgment and like there's some things that I might not be open to, but give me the opportunity to have that conversation and to learn more about where you're coming from and your perspective, and maybe I might be open to it, probably not, but at the same time just having those conversations and being able to explore. And then the other thing that we just need to get into is that Black women deserve love, peace, happiness. We do not have to struggle. If you're struggling, if you're heartbroken, if you're not being treated well, that is not love. We need to just stop that. Love does not hurt. I don't care what nobody says. I get so tired of people telling me love hurts. Love does not hurt. If love
does not hurt.
If this love that you're saying is hurting you, that is something else. That's abuse. That could be abuse. That could be heartache. That could be distrust.
Trauma, pain, there's a whole lot of words for it. It's
but it ain't love. Stop saying that. Please stop saying that love hurts. Love should not hurt. It is the most wonderful and beautifulest thing. We taint it when we say that it hurts because that's not love if it's hurting. And we need to get that and understand that. And that's something else I think we need to relearn, right? Because we've been taught differently to, like put up with certain things or like whatever. We need to be able to be clear about what love is and what it looks for you and yourself and the love that you have for yourself. Because when you love yourself, then you're not even accepting of things that are not of that. You're not even open to that, right? So we really got to figure out that part about love. But let's play this game because I really want people to experience this war on love game. Let's shuffle shuffle it and pick a card. And I want to talk about like some serious stuff. Like I think we've already covered all of the bases.
All of the bases. But what I will say, so for those of you that are like, how do I get this game? WarOnLoveGame.com is where you can grab it from. But to your point, we're the first generation to do this though, right? So this notion of you deserve to be happy, you deserve pleasure, we are the first generation of women to even consider the concept. So again, you don't have a model. Nobody taught you that because that's not how they lived. Struggle love was a thing. Love was a thing. You had to earn it by proving how much you could endure. And that was way it equated. So again, we are the first generation of women to be in this space of like, I want champagne on Tuesdays. I deserve to feel good. I mean, we are that group. So again, so I say all that to say, be kind to you, be graceful to you. Again, it's not you didn't have to. I mean, we are literally like pioneers in this relationship space. It's a beautiful thing, but know that again, we're charting a course that has not been modeled before for us. So the War on Love game. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna so since we're doing this virtually, I'm gonna flip 2 cards, and you just decide if you want card 1 or card 2. Okay. The high card or highest heart wins. So I'm gonna flip a card.
And those that are watching us, please join in. Like, you can answer the questions in the chat. We definitely want to hear your responses. And Rolanda, we're on Earth Mama Network. If you feel like you want to come in and play the game with us, that would be really fun.
So since I gave you card 1 and I'm card 2, actually card 1 at this point. And so the way, again, people make up their own rules, just like relationships typically do. So the way I designed it to be played, is that whoever wins gets both of the cards and they get to decide which question we discuss. So since you got the cards, it's do we discuss it's okay? Is it okay to date your friend's ex? Or what is a bad first date?
Let's talk about the dating of the ex.
Is it okay to date your friend's ex? And for those of you that are watching again, drop it in the chat or comments section, wherever you are. Is it okay to date your friend's ex? Also, the rules of the game are really straightforward. There are no right or wrong answers. This is borrowed from Dessert and Discussion. If you ever came live to that, you knew this was a thing also. No right or wrong answers, just honest or dishonest. And your challenge or your invitation is to be honest with your answer. So don't lie to you and be respectful about the perspectives of other people who may share. So is it okay to date your friend's ex, Christy?
For me, I'm not interested in dating my friend. My friend. Now let's be clear, friend. And when I say friend, this is somebody that I love and care about. We have a relationship, mutual respect for each other, some level loyalty, like all of those things. For me, I'm not interested in dating my friend's ex. But this is what I will say. I don't like, and I think this is because I'm getting older, right? I don't like how we kind of put a marker on people, right? So it's like, oh, I liked her. So nobody can talk to her because you liked her. Nobody can talk to him because you liked him. Like, I'm gonna need you to have had a relationship with this person. I'm gonna need to have known that this was a real relationship. I can't I meet somebody that you went to school with and y'all went on a couple of dates 20 years ago in college, and I meet him and we're like no, that's we can't put these markers on people. But like, if you're a friend of mine, we're in the same spaces, we know I've known you all as a couple, then no, I'm not dating you. I think that there's something called integrity into that. But like, putting these markers on people, saying like, oh, well, because I looked at him first, so you can't talk to him. I'm not with that. I think we need to explore that. And then I also think time too. Like, if you dated him 50 years ago, is he still like, and you're married and happy? Like, I think that there's some more variables, and I think that it requires more conversation. But generally, and for myself, speaking for myself alone, I'm not interested in dating my friend.
No, that's fair. I agree with that. So again, Elaine said, if it's a real friend, no. Acquaintance, maybe.
Right. That's an acquaintance. Like, come on, like everybody, you can't mark up everybody.
Or do I know you, right? And so that's where my thing is, because like I said, in this world, and not that Jasmine said, yes, Christ, time is also a big, Chrissy, time is a big factor. Yes, indeed. Because again, there is this deal. For me is, again, what's the depth of the relationship? Again, is it, because there have been guys, again, even with friends, where it's like, hey, we went out and it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna rock with them. You all for it, right? Again, because again, I believe people date, and we found out we were dating the same guy, and we are friends. New guy, new whole thing, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tap out because he's not my speed. So let's not knock yourself out with it, right? And so I think for me, it's just more about the honesty of a situation, right? So again, if you honest, upfront, upboard of what's happening, that's one thing. Again, to your point, this is a whole human being. Who are you to now take them out of the run for their happily ever after just because it didn't work with you? I think that's the most selfish thing to me. It's selfish. It's like, wait, let me get this straight. You're not with them. You don't plan to be with them. And I could possibly be happy with them. And you, just because of a past experience with them, are like, nope, you can't. You don't date them. Again, close friends, if you intimate, if they your child's father, that probably would be awkward and weird.
No, thank you.
But and I also caveat, my mother, so growing up, my cousin ended up marrying my mother's ex-boyfriend.
Mm.
And my mom was always cool about it, right? I mean, we still grew. I grew up with my cousins. It wasn't a big thing. But we all knew that her husband was my mom's boyfriend for a long time. So I knew that always, and it was never a thing. It was like, okay, didn't work out for them. So my experience is a little different. So I do realize that because it was like, oh yeah, we knew, and it was no thing. She went on to have 3 children with the man. Married them. We would go spend a night at their house and everything. My mom was cool with it. So,
but I think that's maturity because I don't think we're all mature to that level.
Yeah.
Like you said, like it didn't work out with your mom and him. Your mom is married to someone else, and he got with the cousin, and now it's cool. But I mean, so many nuances to stuff that I think we just have to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's just what that represents to you, and that's what it comes down to: is understanding who are you in relationship to that person, or who do you believe that person makes you?
Yeah,
in relationship to them. That's really where the piece comes down to. So shall we?
And I would sure hope, Alex, if you knew somebody that was for me, you would not be blocking.
I would not. Because again, for me, it's like it didn't work for me. It's kind of like the high school sweetheart that I ended up in the way. He ended up marrying another girl at the same church I was at. And are happily married today, have a whole family, whole thing. It's like, how dare I choose to be like, oh no, because I can't believe it's like, no, don't do that to people. Like love, it's a big broad thing. Like again, I just don't think you should. If it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you. That's cool. Yeah. But to block somebody else, it's like,
yeah, let's be mature, let's be transparent, and then also integrity wise, like the question is a no brainer. Like, no, you should not date people, that you have like stealing people's husbands and sleeping with them and having affairs and like all that like crazy stuff. No. I'm not with that. But like if you really genuinely are, find someone that's in love that you are acquainted with, and like let's promote love. I'm looking for my people. I'm looking for my people to hook me up. Hook me up. Vet him. You know me. Put it together.
Make that happen. All right. So how's the first card keep winning? Okay. So there's a king of club and a 3 of diamonds. So that's how you know which one is the top. So 3 things you love about the opposite sex, or what should you never say to men?
Ooh, let's talk about what we should never say to men. I need somebody else to answer these questions. This is
And so even those that are watching this, again, wherever you're watching, again, what should you never say to men? When men and women play this together, that's where the power shows up. You get to hear from the opposite sex, and you never have heard it. Like they won't, because men don't just be walking around telling you stuff, but they will answer any question you ask them.
Right.
Okay,
so the question, say the question again.
What should you never say to men?
Whew. So I kind of come to this conclusion for me. I think in my last relationship, I would just say everything because I wanted you to be clear, like where I stand. Like I want you to be clear about where I stand, what I feel, what I want, what I don't want. So I pretty much laid it out on the table, right? But what I realized, and I don't know if this is, and let's talk about this because I think this is the nature of men. I don't necessarily think that they listen and hear that so that they can like get an understanding. I think that helps them to figure out how to navigate the relationship, good or bad, right? And so I think you should, I don't know, I feel like you have to tailor what you say almost so that you don't give them too much information, because I think sometimes it taints things, and then the nature of like wanting to make things work for you, right? Not necessarily for you and the person you're in a relationship, but like I feel like they navigate what you say to them and they can use it against you most of the times. And that's what I found. Like I just think that you shouldn't tell men everything. I think you should be very no, you just have to be, it's almost like a game, and I hate to think that way, but you really can't tell them everything because men don't tell you everything. Men do not tell you everything. They tell you what you want, what they want you to know. And so I just think maybe just not telling all like you don't have to pour your whole heart out and like all these things that you like. I think you just have to be very strategic and how you share so that it can be in a way that
So as a love engineer, and for people that are watching this, I'm like, if you agree with this, again, do join me in my upcoming masterclass. Because again, not right or wrong. It's just realize again, as I literally just about to post something was like a guarded heart does not get loved. It's kind of the piece, right? And so, and not even saying that's where you are. It's like, but do join me in my upcoming masterclass. One of the things, again, when men answer this question when we play this, what they usually respond to is don't say things to them that are criticizing who they are. Meaning like you ain't like, you ain't it mean nothing. Because I don't know that, not even I do know that women don't understand the power we carry with men. No matter who the dude is. It doesn't even, he could be a complete stranger. But a woman's voice, our interaction with him and what we speak to him, he takes that to heart, though he doesn't react like women do. So men may not display how they feel, but anything that attacks their character, anything that attacks their sense of self-worth, because again, you got to understand. So whereas women like, oh my God, you got to get married, that they have been trained that their whole success rate in life is predicated upon how happy they can make a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the failure setup of that, right? Again, so it's like, no, I'm like, some days I can't make myself happy. So I know you got to feel like a failure if your job is to make me happy. If that is your responsibility and I can't do it some days, you feel like a complete failure on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So one of the things to not say to men is things that criticize their character, like I said, because they don't wear their feelings on the sleeve, but a woman's words to a man, and he could be a complete stranger. Try this out. Does not matter. Compliment a man, and he will walk on water for you. And again, complete stranger, no matter who. In fact, I used to do it all the time. Like, thank you so much. You did this was so great. So again, so anything that criticizes who he is, know that your words as a woman hits him at a level that you wouldn't even imagine.
I agree.
Careful about the way you speak.
I still think that you can't say everything because I think
it's not about saying everything to, again, this is about like how do you talk to him, less about what you reveal to him about you, right? There's stages to this and to the quality of the relationship, because usually up front, that I work with a lot of powerhouse women in courses or whatever like that, and we'll get into this more in the upcoming masterclass, but some of the approach we take, especially like I'm gonna tell them everything, I'm gonna lay everything on the table, is what's underneath that is actually fear. This fear of like, I don't want you to say I didn't tell you, or if you don't do something and I leave you, you don't act blindsided, but fear is driving that, not even desire. And so when fear drives anything, which is a lot of what powerhouse women are doing, we're strategically attempting to keep our heart from being broken.
I agree.
And that sets you up for controlled heartbreak, meaning I break my own heart first.
Before you can do it.
Before you do it. And so that still doesn't set me up to be loved. It still doesn't set me up to be happy in the relationship. And it's actually not what I want.
Yeah.
And so again, that the masterclass will get underneath there, because there's ways to get, not even ways. You must unlearn that, because again, like I said, because the game becomes, you don't break my heart, I break my heart for me.
Right.
And we feel better about it. Like, no, the game is not to have
in some kind of way you absolve yourself of responsibility because you said everything, right?
I said everything. And so it's a defense strategy. It's not a relationship building one. It doesn't ever work out, actually.
I like that you said that too, because I also think we have to build relationships. I think we kind of go in head first, and like sex is definitely, it's high on my priority list, but it isn't the end all be all, right? But we have to work on building relationships and getting to know people. And I think when we do that, then we know what conversations we can have. We know what kind of conversations to have before that. Like, just we just have to, I feel like there's a level of compassion and grace that we need to show ourselves, but also to the people that we're in relationships.
And it's being and it's being able to do that. But like I said, but understand again, we're smart. We've had to weather a lot in this world, and our relationships become another thing that if we're not careful, it just becomes another guard we walk through the world with. Even if I mean, dating again, attracting men is not difficult for many people, and for those that might feel like I can't even get somebody to look at me. Same way. Again, it's like energy is not created or destroyed, right? It's one of the fundamental laws out there. It's like it's just transferred. And so the energy in my relationship, particularly as women, we have the dials for that.
Yeah. And I think
And
when we ask the question, are you really ready for love? Like that is something that you have to internalize first. And everything else falls in line, in my opinion, when you're very clear about that, right?
yep, yep. And it's not even an intellectual piece because I mean, if I ask the 100 powerhouses, are they ready for love? 90 of them will say yes. The reality, though, as I walk there again, like it's like 20% of them that are actually ready for love. Everybody else is like, nope, I got it. But once you peel it back and she sees it, then she's like, not only am I not ready, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm. So let me say this because that's the reason why we're having this conversation. Last month, we had another panelist. She wasn't able to make it today, and hopefully she'll be able to come and we can have part 2 to this conversation. We were having this conversation because she worked with this couple that does kind of like relationship counseling. And she was talking about how she worked with this couple for over a year that had to help her unlearn some things, how to love herself and to be comfortable with herself and the skin that she was in, and then also creating tools and being not strategic but being like thoughtful and methodical on how she dated. And so she has a spreadsheet, she has pre-written answers, and she knew what she was looking for. So if they were saying this, then she's like, okay, that's fine, we'll move on. Being upfront about your conversations, just like unlearning and trying new things. And she's now in a relationship that's almost been for over a year, and they definitely have the same goals of getting married and all these different things. And she attributes her being able to do that because she went through this process herself and how this couple really helped them. And I think about you. I mean, that was why I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to call Alex because we got to get into this conversation. Because I think, again, the way that we're socialized is like, oh, just get married, have children, and live happily ever after. And there's really, to be honest with people, if you just want that, there's plenty of people you can do that with, right? There is, excuse my words, but there is penis everywhere, right? Like if you just want a penis, they're everywhere. But if you want a relationship, if you want a marriage, if you want that companionship, if you want to be with someone that cares for you and loves for you the way that you want to do the same for them, that takes work and a lot of intentionality. And you got to be very in tune with yourself so that you can know what that looks like and what you want that to be. And I think we're still trying to figure that out because we have to unlearn all these things that we've learned before that don't serve us well, right? I mean, I think we have a marriage rate of like 50%, 80 to 90% single. Black women are the head of households and single. Like, there's a lot of these bullshit, excuse my French, but I'm a cusser, stereotypical like things that we're dealing with and hearing, and we're socialized. I work with fourth graders that were already, you can see their self-esteem being damaged in the ways that they were interacting with boys and how they were looking at themselves and how they were felt like they were not pretty and how they didn't like them. Like this stuff starts early, early, right? So how do we like do the work that we need to do so that we can be truly ready for love? And then when we receive it, we can receive it wholeheartedly and not, guarded, like you said, not feeling the level of trust and like feeling like what it should be, especially as we get older. Like I'm 47. I don't know. I haven't been able to answer this question. I don't know if I ever want to be married again, but I definitely am interested in companionship. I'm definitely interested in vacationships. I'm definitely interested in meeting other men that, we have like-mindedness and that we can have fun together. Like one of my biggest things is like, I just want somebody that don't get on my nerves. If you don't get on my nerves, Oh my God. I'm attracted to you. You don't get on my nerves and we enjoy our time together and we travel. I'm in heaven. Sign me up. Sign me up today. So like
Yeah.
let's talk about and like let's wrap up because I know, we're approaching the hour and we'll probably go to 7:30, but really thinking about how we can get the love that we deserve, how we can get ready for love, and why it's important for us to do the work so that we can have the love that we desire and we want. The other thing is like I have been, I guess, divorced for like 11 years, and I am very happy with myself. And I'm happy because I'm doing the things that I want to do. Now, of course, again, there's men everywhere. If I really wanted just a man, like I could go get that. Like there's no problem with that. Like no problem with that, right? But if you want someone, um, if you really want what you really want, then it's worth working towards it, looking forward, building that relationship, and then like really building on that in a real ways.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's really, I'm like, yes. And that is the premise, like I said, as a lover, and that's all of that, right? The lure love methodology that we like. So we'll cover in the upcoming masterclass around 5 signs you don't really love yourself. Because some of it is just uncovering the things, right? Some of it, we've practiced doing it a certain way for a very long time, and we just don't realize. Because again, it's not a married or unmarried. Like I said, some of the loneliest women I know are married,
Mhm.
right? They get married, they do the thing, and they're like, what the heck, right? And it's the
Yeah.
Rumi quote that probably undergirds everything I do as the love engineer. He says, your task is not to seek for love, but to seek within and remove all the barriers you've built against it. And so my work and what we do is help people identify what their barriers are. Because what blocks you put up to guard your heart look differently based on your experiences and what you have, but that you have them, them. It's like if you say stuff like, again, like, I don't need a man, or I just want a companion, or I don't want this because of this, or usually it's, again, fear or something else that has gone wrong in the past that I'm trying to prevent from happening again in the future. Right. And so it's being willing to let go of that. And that, like I said, and we don't have time to get into it here, but I do, and like I said, invite any sisters that are listening to join me inside of the masterclass. Because once you see it, you see it. You're like, oh, okay, I got it. And for the masterclass, I think I sent you the link, but bit.ly// all caps, I'm worthy, and the number 2. To register for it, it's free, but it's taking the time to just uncover, in a safe place, to let yourself feel why you put that block up. Not even so much, and be clear, I'm not a therapist. This is not therapy. I am an engineer. So I approach it a little differently, and therapists love me, by the way, because I can say things that they say, yeah, it's like bit.ly// all caps, I'm worthy, number 2. But it's taking the time, because it's like a light switch is the way I see it. And that's the thing that I do want also to share. People's like, oh my God, engineering's so hard. It's like, but the reality is it's like a light switch in a room. You can walk in a dark room and it could take you a long time to find a switch. But once you find the switch, the light comes on, and it's not difficult, right? So the number of powerhouses, again, both, even those who've been a deserter, again, once you see the distinction, like, oh yeah, okay, got it. And they like happily married, right? And I tell people, I was like, I got relationship receipts out in these streets, right? Again, marriage and long-term relationships. There's some people who like, I just legit am not ever marrying. And they end loving, commitment. I ain't never gonna get married relationships. Rolanda is all, so I'm worthy is all, is I am.
Just type it, Alex. Type it in the chat.
I guess I could do that. Sorry about that, guys. Look at me with all this power. But that's the same way again in our relationship. We're like, look, I could do this, and I don't even realize that I can have it. But it is uncovering that, because again, like I said, for many of us, we've not been loved, believe it or not. We don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And we pretend like we do, but the reality is that many of us don't. I say all the time again, for many powerhouse women, the first man to break her heart was her dad. And then that relationship plays out in every other relationship that she has, but we don't want to acknowledge that sometimes. And so we just carry it forward as if it's gonna be okay. You just need to make it better. It's like, Actually,
Well, and I also will add to that the first people that break our hearts is our parents, both
our
of
parents.
them, even our moms, the decisions and the things that they decided to deal with. I personally saw things that I know I decided early on, like, no, not going to be me, not going to deal with that, not going to do that. But then also, just it's heartbreaking to see, like the women that you love be in abusive relationships and go through some of the things that you want to do. And it traumatizes us. We talk about ACEs and childhood trauma and all that kind of stuff like that. It really is real, that our parents do break our hearts. And the reason why is because they show us things that we shouldn't necessarily see. And some of us actually repeat that behavior, and it becomes generational things that we have to continue to try to undo, and like the curse that comes along with that. I also want to just bring up, like something that's on my heart is like there's been a couple of Black women that have passed away, in our community and all over this country, right? And they're very close to our ages, you know, mid to late 40s, early
Mm,
50s. They're unhealthy. They have unhealthy, like they're unhealthy, like they have health issues. They have been heartbroken. They never found the love, or felt the love that they deserved. And a lot of them are brown. Some of them are over, what people will call overweight. And they're good and great and wonderful people. And when they die, people just love, just like, oh my God, how much we love them and cared about them. But then thinking about how they didn't feel that in real life, like I don't want to be that. When I look back on my life, I want to feel like I got the love that I deserved. Whether I was in a relationship or not, we can still have that, right? Like
yeah,
we don't have to die and be heartbroken and be upset. I think heartbreak is one of the reasons why heart disease is the number one killer of Black women.
for sure.
And I just want us to find that love for ourselves so that we feel good about like the lives that we live. And like if you don't get what you think you're supposed to get at that time, like it comes. Like I even think about my mom. She found the love of her life at 43 years old. They've been now married for 25 years. She went through hell and back. And I can say that because I was right there with her, right? But
That's how it is.
right, but we just have to figure out how to make sure that we get the love that we deserve no matter what. Like that should be our priority, to get the love that we deserve, and that we are the ones that make that happen and not happen, and that's not in somebody else's control.
That's absolutely true. Like I said, love is a human need. It's not even remotely, it's not optional. And so to your point, of heartbreak, I'll never forget. And it's again the other reason why again I am passionate about the work that I do. My grandmother, like many powerhouse again, is my girl, was my girl. Like, I mean, she was my whole role model. And I'll tell you, all my life growing up, my grandmother would say, whenever she would see somebody doing something, my grandmother never got married or anything like that, but she would always be like, I ain't never loved nobody like that. So in my mind,
Grandma said
loving
that too. Oh my
loving
God.
loving someone for me was a negative thing. I was like, I'm gonna be like my grandma. My mother and my father married, whole nine. But anyway, my grandmother would say that all the time. So I thought it was a badge of honor to be unmarried until on her 82nd or 83rd birthday, I was home because I would always take her to breakfast. That was my granny's thing. And we're sitting in the kitchen, and again, I since a little girl, I've always had questions, and my questions have questions. So I'm like, Granny, so
If look, and if it don't make sense to you, then somebody
we
gonna
got
have to make it make
Granny,
sense.
what do it's your 82nd birthday. What do you what are you most excited about as you look forward, right? Because again, mind you, she 82. I was like, and what do you miss or what do you regret or something like that? Do you know this woman on her 82nd birthday said, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking how Mary and Gracie and them all got married and I never got married. I was like, excuse me? And in that moment is the day I became uncommitted to being unmarried because I was perfectly fine with not being married forever because I'm thinking this is the way to prove that you on her 82nd birthday, what she was thinking about was the fact and regretting that she never got married. She never knew the love that she always would be like, I ain't never loved like that. And then in that moment, I realized how sad it was that my grandmother was going to go to her grave having never known love like that. And not even so much love from somebody else. That's one thing. But she also never got overly excited about anything. She was never super expressive about anything that happened. Because that's the game. Like I said, a closed or guarded heart doesn't get loved from anywhere. Because if you don't let love in from whatever source that you're protecting it from, that's cool. You also block it from all the other places it could potentially come to you.
Wow.
And that was, for me, that was the piece. Like watching again, love my granny too. And in that moment again, realized I was like, I could give her everything, but I couldn't give her, because and I don't know, like the minute, like, did you like this? Yeah, that was nice. I mean, nothing was ever like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I realized, I was like, oh, because she blocked love in whatever area, and it couldn't get to her any other way. So she did go to her grave not having love like that before. Meanwhile, the reality is, it's like, to have never felt it at this deep level, to have never been loved like that, and to never have let yourself be loved like that, it's like you're doing yourself a disservice. We're doing our communities a disservice. And because here's where it also got really real for me. My niece one day, I don't know, must have been 3-4 years ago, we were talking, and I was like, you should, when you get a boy, I think she might have been 8. I'm like, when you get a husband, he needs to have this, that, and the other. That little girl looked me dead in the face and said, TT, I don't want one. I was like, what you mean? You don't want one? She said, I'm going to be just like you. And in that moment, I realized I had to do something differently, because I was setting up the next generation just like my grandmother. And it unknowingly set me up to believe that the game was to figure out how to do this by yourself and not no, that's not the game. That's not it. And when she said, I was like, oh shoot, let me like, no, being in a relationship is a good thing. Being married, you can do all these things. She was like, nope, I'm gonna travel the world, I'm gonna make a lot of money, and I'm gonna be just like you. So now I'm on a quest to, one, make sure we're all ready for love, but two, also to take down any barriers that have been built against it, so that little girl gets to see her auntie loved, in an amazing relationship, happily married. So that, again, should she choose not to be married, that's one thing, but I don't want her to only have a model of success that has singleness attached to it.
Right.
And so that's the other reason why I'm super passionate about that. People are watching us. Mm-hmm. And we are the good girls. We are the smart girls. We the people they talk about around Thanksgiving dinner table, about the one that made it and look how great she's doing. Mm-hmm. Love should be part of that greatness too.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really good discussion. This won't be our last discussion. We're definitely going to be having more conversations about love and relationships and how we can get that love, not only from relationships, but also for ourselves and what that looks like. Because you said something earlier. It's like when we have that, then all the other things that we're doing actually benefit from us having that love and feeling cared for and supported and protected. That when we have those things, everybody benefits from that.
Everybody. The whole
everybody.
World. Yes.
So we got to work on making sure that we get that, and what that looks like, and being open-minded of what that looks like, and not guarding yourself, and just being open to love. And when we're open, I think things come to you, right? I feel like we manifest in that mindset, and we're crystals. We got all the stuff nowadays, right?
All of
the full moon. Like we got all of it. We know we got all of that.
So a husband in a healthy relationship is not difficult.
Yes, like we can have that, and we can have it all. You might not have it all at the same time, but we can have it all. And I think we really do need to explore what that looks like and be more open-minded about it. So I appreciate you. It's so good to be able to have this conversation with you. I miss our dessert and discussions. We're gonna have to come back because you got people waiting for you. Like if you say I'm coming to Sacramento, and I'm doing a dessert and discussion, we all would be right there. I think you did it the last time you came. we were at a little club and we had like a little gathering, and of course the people come because people want to have these conversations. They
Yeah,
just don't have
yeah.
a lot of space for it.
Couldn't
Maybe next time we'll have a male. We'll get us a male to come on over here and play the game with us, and we'll figure it out. But I'm really excited we were able to have this conversation. I wanted to do this in this month because this is when it
February.
becomes very heightened, whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship, and all these different pressures. But let's talk about it. Like let's think about it. Are we really ready for love, and are we doing the work that is setting us up for us to have the love that we want?
Yep. And
So
if you are ready and or at least you want to explore it, again, do join me in this free masterclass on the 27th of February. It'll change your life. Again, I don't say it lightly. I know the gift that I come to this world with, and I'm grateful to share that. But again, once you can have the love you deserve and desire. It's just being willing to unlearn and learn some things that'll set you up for that. So do join me on the 27th, bit.ly/I'm worthy, number 2. All caps. We'll have a good time. Christy, it's always a blessing, friend. Thank you for your support of me over the years, for always being a champion, and for pulling, sisters together in a way. Because, like I said, once we can tap into the love that we are, then we are magnets for the love that we can have. You pull it to you. You don't have to go. You don't have to go find it. It will find you.
Ma'am. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say this is part one and the introduction to this conversation that we'll continue to have. Yeah, we'll have to figure out the next steps. My mind is already thinking. Like, this conversation came from a dinner conversation, and I have to give it up to Adeline. She was there. Ricky, we were having this dinner conversation, and we just was like, oh my God, we need to have this conversation openly, and like we need to add and bring people to this conversation because like people need to hear this. We need this. We need to have these discussions. So this will be part one. I know that the flyer was put up for your masterclass, and that's happening on February the 27th. I know you have the I Declare Love conference that's coming up in Minneapolis in May.
Yes.
How can people follow you? Where do people need to follow you so that they can get updates and they can know about upcoming events? And
so on Facebook, if you go to Dessert and Discussion, you can join the group there, Relationship Skills for Powerhouses and the Men Who Love Us. So join me in the group there. Or again, go to the War on Love game. That's to get the game. But the loveengineer.com takes you to Dessert and Discussion. So get on my mailing list there. And so you'll be on the email list there and you'll get all the updates as well. And then of course stay close to Christy. She is an affiliate for the I Declare Love deal. So she'll be able to drop her link and you can register through that as well. But do join me at the loveengineer.com. Go to about once you get to the page and then make sure you're on the email list.
Yeah, get this game. I definitely got this game. Whenever I see Alex, she be pulling them out of her purse. I'd be like, I need that game. And she'd be like, okay, here you go. So get that War on Love game. Start having these discussions. You can have these discussions with your children. I really encourage us to start, exploring with our children and our young people to how to have healthy relationships and have these conversations so that they can have like wonderful relationships and think positively of what love could look like and what it should be. So definitely, this is not the last time you hear from Alex. This is my home girl. We be doing things all over the world. I don't know what coast we'll be on soon, but I'm sure I will be seeing you soon. And I really appreciate you. And I also want to thank Rolanda for hosting us on the Earth Mama Network.
Yes, thank you.
Behind the scenes, doing all of the things. And I know she'll have a lot to say about this conversation afterwards. But yeah, the conversation will continue. This won't be the last time. And I'm just so thankful we were able to do this today.
Yeah, I am as well. Thank you so much for having me. To all of you that are watching, again, it's a pleasure to meet you guys virtually. Do follow me. Like I said, I look forward to connecting again so that we all get to build amazing relationships and live lives we love. Because again, you are worthy of everything you deserve and desire, and love is no different. So,
amen. Period. All right. Bye.